What's going on, everyone, and welcome to my new channel, Hometown Heroes. For those who don't know me, my name is Colin Casey, and I currently broadcast college hockey, among other sports, for a few schools in New England, most notably my alma mater, UMass, the flagship campus, for those Lowell fans who clicked on the video. Sorry to get us off on the wrong foot. All kidding aside, figured now would be a pretty good time to kick this off with the NCAA tournament kicking off this week, so be sure to subscribe as I have a lot more cool ideas planned for the off-season for more in-depth type videos about some of the bigger stories in the history of college hockey. But back to the focus of this video, and that, of course, is the 16 teams that are vying for that NCAA championship this April. I'm hoping to bring you kind of the cliff notes of each of these teams' stories and how they got to this point in the season. Plenty of familiar faces, but also a few newcomers making their first ever big dance, so should be an exciting couple of weeks before we crown that 2025 national champion. Enough blabbering from me, let's get right into it, beginning out east with the Manchester Regional, Boston College. It's been another season of high expectations in Chestnut Hill, after the Eagles came up just a game shy of their 6th national championship, thanks in large part to an incredible Matt Davis performance for Denver and net. They've maintained that elite level of play in year 3 under Greg Brown. It's also easy to forget they've lost a few massive contributors in Cutter Gauthier and Will Smith to the NHL during the offseason, but that hasn't slowed down a BC squad that enters the NCAA tourney top 10 in goals per game, goals allowed per game, penalty killing. The story this year for the Eagles has been the dominance of two key sophomores, Ryan Leonard and Jacob Fowler. Leonard has put an NCAA high 29 pucks into the back of the net, giving him an insane 60 goals in just 78 collegiate games. Fowler, meanwhile, is in second in both goals against average and save percentage nationally, while leading his squad to another Hockey East regular season title in arguably the strongest year the conference has ever had. There have been others who've stepped up as well, with Rangers first-rounder and fellow sophomore Gabe Perreault having another strong season, plus the freshman duo of James Hagans and Teddy Stiga combining for 64 points. It is another title or bust season for Boston College and their fans, though, who are hoping for better fortune than the Beanpot and Hockey East tournament, the Eagles losing the former to BU in a tightly contested championship game, while dropping the latter in a stunning upset at Conti Forum against 9th-seeded Northeastern. While I believe they should handle their business in their regional and punch their ticket to their 27th Frozen Four, it's never that easy in the NCAA tournament. The X factor for them will be secondary scoring. Last year, guys like Jack Malone and Oscar Jelvik provided ample point production down the stretch for the Eagles. My eyes are on Will Vogt and Mike Posma as potential unsung heroes if Boston College takes home the ultimate prize for the first time in 13 years. Still feels pretty crazy it's been that long. Denver. The defending champs, back in the NCAA tournament for the 4th straight year, plus the Pios have made every tournament for the past 17 years, except for 2021. It's been said plenty, but what David Carl has done since taking over for another elite coach, Jim Montgomery, has been nothing short of exceptional. All that being said, getting back to the Frozen Four won't be a walk in the park for the Pioneers given the depth of this year's field. They do, however, have plenty of horses to get them to St. Louis. Habs 5th-rounder Sam Harris has built off a strong freshman season in a big way, leading the team with 22 goals. The captain Carter King has also eclipsed 20 goals as the center between a strong top line of him, Aiden Thompson, and Jack Devine, who leads the country with 56 points. Additionally, the sophomore trio of Zeev Bouillon, Boston Buckberger, and Eric Polkamp on the blue line have all contributed greatly to one of just 2 offenses in the nation, averaging more than 4 goals per game. My X factor for Denver? Same one that won them the national championship last year with a legendary performance in a 2-0 shutout win over Boston College, Matt Davis. Funny enough, Davis has just 1 shutout in his senior season, but his numbers are as steady as ever. We see the same version of the Southpaw this spring. The first repeat winner since Duluth in 2019 is very much a possibility, and maybe even a probability. Providence. Another team that fell in the Hockey East quarterfinals but finds its way to Manchester with plenty of room to spare. Feels a bit strange to say this is the Friars' first trip to the NCAA tournament since 2019, where they made it all the way to the Frozen Four in Buffalo. A lot of bridesmaid seasons the past several years, including a 16th place finish in Paraguay's last spring, plus 19th in 2022. Not the case in 2025. A decade after Nate Lehman brought Providence their first natty in school history, he has one of the most balanced rosters in the country, whose bread and butter has been winning 2 things: face-offs and 1-goal games. The Friars are one of the best teams in the nation at the dot, winning 54.7% of their draws. Chase Yoder, who's played 171 college games, has been astounding with 351 total wins at the dot this year and 599 draws. As far as close games go, PC is 11-3-0 in contests decided by a single goal. They aren't the highest scoring team in the field at just 2.8 goals per game, but they know how to come out on top in those close ones. Despite the tough loss on the road to UConn in the conference quarters, the Friars won't have to go far to their regional, having to likely go through Boston College. To get to St. Louis will be a tall order, especially with the Eagles winning all 3 of their regular season contests. That being said, the X factor for PC will certainly be how its power play will hold up against the best of the best. Friars have just gone 16% on the man advantage this year and are just 2 for their last 23 on the power play. They've also given up 4 goals on the kill in the last 4, so special teams in general is what Providence needs more out of to return to the promised land. Bentley. For much of the Atlantic hockey season, the talk was whether it would be the Holy Cross Crusaders or the Sacred Heart Pioneers that would represent the underdog conference in the national tournament come late March. Bentley Falcons pulled a Michael Jordan and took those conversations personally because, my goodness, what a run it's been for Andy Jones' group over these past couple of months. 10-2-0 over their final dozen, including a 5-0 playoff run through Canisius and then both the Pios and the Satyrs. Obviously, Penn State and UMass got a lot of the press as far as strong finishes go to earn their spots in the dance, but man, what these Falcons did to earn their first ever NCAA berth, nothing short of extraordinary. All-Atlantic first-teamer Ethan Lay led the offensive charge for Bentley, tallying 40 points, including 7 over the final 4 games of their postseason run. Nick Armstrong Kincaid wasn't far behind with a dozen goals, as the graduate transfer, who played under Coach Jones when he was an assistant at Lowell, buried a pair in the championship win over Holy Cross. Oh, and their goalie has 11 shutouts. That's right, 11 for junior Connor Hasley. The next closest is coincidentally Jacob Fowler with 7, who Hasley will square off with in Manchester. We know that the Falcons are facing an uphill battle in a first-round meeting with top-seeded Boston College. 16 upsetting 1 has been done before, including back-to-back years for St. Cloud State in 2018 and 2019, when they fell to Air Force and AIC respectively. Sorry, Husky fans. I think for the Falcons to pull off this upset, my X factor is make it an ugly one. See if you can get BC into a trench warfare type game where physicality becomes the great equalizer. Far easier said than done, but Bentley has done it before this year with a 4-2 upset win in Portland over Maine. We'll see if they can be the next Atlantic team to shock the hockey world. Michigan State. Moving on to the Toledo Regional, I think it's safe to say the Spartans have dispelled the notion that last season's return to contention was a fluke. The Adam Nightingale effect is real. Michigan State enters the dance this year, having clinched back-to-back 25-win seasons. First time they've done that since 2007-2008, the year after they won their last national championship. The big story in East Lansing has been Isaac Howard, the 2022 Lightning first-round pick, who's tripled his goal total from last year and is among the nation's leaders in scoring as a Hobey Baker finalist. Trey Augustine continues to do his thing in goal, earning his second straight Mike Richter Award nomination just 2 years of college hockey. Even his backup in Luca DePasquo went undefeated while Augustine was at World Juniors. As a team, Michigan State has also been one of the best at protecting leads. They're 23-4 when scoring first, and 17-0-2 when leading after 2 periods. Basically, if you fall behind against them, chances are you ain't coming back to beat them. As far as X Factor goes, yes, the penalty kill numbers could be a bit better, but I'm looking at who can light the lamp alongside Howard during the tourney. Spartans are chock full of juniors that have provided offense throughout the season, like Carson Dorwart and Michigan native Joey Larson. Potted 16 goals last year, including 1 in the regional championship loss to their bitter rival in the Wolverines. MSU's 23-24 season ended in Missouri with a sour taste in their mouths. Maybe this time around they taste gold in the Gateway City. Ohio State. No need to get into too much detail about OSU's 2023-2024 campaign, but most Buckeye fans would love to forget it after a 4-18-2 Big Ten record. This year's Ohio State club has looked a lot more like the 22-23 team that made the tourney. Thanks to a pivotal OT win over Penn State in the Big Ten semifinals, the Buckeyes will be dancing for the 11th time in school history. Big Ten Coach of the Year Steve Rollick has a quartet of scorers at the forefront of this renaissance in Columbus, headlined by former Northeastern Husky Gunnar Wolf-Fontaine, who scored the aforementioned winner against the Nittany Lions. Him, freshman Riley Thompson, and middle-classmen Davis Burnside and Max Montez are all north of double digits in goals, while Logan Turnus has put together his best collegiate season in net. He had been splitting the net with sophomore Christopher Eberle, but Turnus has turned it on in the postseason with several 30-plus save performances. While that core four of forwards will certainly be important for Ohio State's championship aspirations, my X factor for them will be that top defensive pairing of Damian Carfagna and Aiden Hansen-Bucata. Two guys north of 100 games in Division I that have been terrific all season long. With some younger guys behind them on the depth chart, expect these two to log serious minutes, and if they play up to their usual standard, the Buckeyes could be the dark horse as they look for that elusive first national championship. Boston University. No Beanpot curse to worry about this year. With the season BU has had, it's almost surprising that they finished third in Hockey East, albeit perhaps the deepest the conference has ever been. Regardless of regular season standings, Jay Pandolfo in his third year at the helm might just have his most talented group to date, even after losing Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hudson to the NHL. We'll start up front with one of the deepest forward groups in the field this year, as junior Quinn Hudson has quietly been among the nation's best in points per game all season long, notching 20-plus goals as well for the first time in his college career. Freshman Cole Iserman has lit the lamp like Steve Yzerman, too, including an overtime winner over UMass at Agganis in the Hockey East quarterfinals. But then you have the other guys who have just consistently produced. Shane LaChance, Ryan Green, Jack Harvey, even Jack Hughes, who has turned it on especially down the stretch. Add in a young but dynamic back end that includes Hockey East Rookie of the Year Cole Hudson, budding freshman Sasha Boumedian, and Canucks first-round pick Tom Willander, and it's an embarrassment of riches for the Terriers. Oh, and they've added a 6'5" monster of a goaltender in Mikhail Yegorov, who shut down BC in the Beanpot Championship in just his fifth start. No big deal. All that being said, none of this will matter for BU if they can't get their X factor under control. Discipline. The Terriers have logged the second most penalty minutes in the country this season, behind just their Patriot League rival in Holy Cross. They've had 23 games this year with 10 or more penalty minutes. That's an astronomical number. I'm sure them being the third youngest team in the country has a bit of correlation to that, but no matter the reason, it is a glaring issue. Stay out of the box, and this team's odds of reclaiming the lead in national championships over their bitter Comm Ave rival creep into favorite territory. Cornell. Regardless of what happens next, Big Red fans are going to start writing to Mike Schaefer, begging him for one more year. And their pleas will be justified. Cornell just refuses to die in their head coach's 29th and final season at the helm, as they won their second straight ECA championship thanks to a couple of upset victories over Quinnipiac and Clarkson. The last time they won back-to-back conference titles, Mike Schaefer's first and second seasons back in 96 and 97. Pretty cool stuff. So it's safe to say Big Red knows what's on the line heading into the big one. Bruins draft pick Ryan Walsh, who put the championship game away, has scored in bunches in his sophomore year, while defenseman Tim Rigo has broken out in his final year on campus with 8 goals, more than his first 3 years combined. Can't forget leading goal scorer Dalton Bancroft either, who was named the All-ECAC second team. Ian Shane has shaken off some early season struggles and has had his best goaltending of the season down the stretch, highlighted by a 30-save performance against Clarkson and Lake Placid. If Cornell wants this Cinderella story to continue all the way to St. Louis, they are going to need a lot more out of their power play than what they've gotten this season. Big Red is 60th in the country at 14.3% on the man advantage, trailed only by Northeastern, Alaska, Air Force, and Lindenwood. The good news? The power play has caught fire in recent times leading up to their matchup with Michigan State, scoring on 5 of their last 16 opportunities. They'll need to make the Spartans pay for any infractions if they want a shot at making a run at their first national championship since 1970, the only undefeated national champion in Division I history, Maine. We head back east a ways to the Allentown Regional, and I think we've seen enough to say the Black Bears are back, and they aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Since Ben Barr arrived in Orono back in the fall of 2021 after winning a national title with UMass, Maine has been in a steady climb towards the top of Hockey East, which includes this year's second-place regular season finish behind the BC Eagles. They, of course, went on to win the conference championship by beating UConn in the title game, first championship since 2004 for the Black Bears. But it's not just the results you're seeing with this historically great program that's back in the national landscape. The individual talent stories have also been there as well. Obviously, Canes first-rounder Bradley Nadeau last year exploded in his only season on campus before signing with Carolina, but this year has been the story of the breakout from veteran players under Barr. Former Minuteman Taylor McCarr joined the Black Bears this offseason and has put up career numbers. Harrison Scott is also impressed, leading the way with 32 points in his second year with the program after coming over from Bentley. Maine's missed captain Lyndon Breen for a large chunk of the season, but he's gotten healthy at the right time to rejoin a senior class of forwards that includes the aforementioned 3, Nolan Renwick, and Owen Fowler, who shined after missing all of last season at UMass Lowell. After a somewhat disappointing end to their season a year ago at the hands of Big Red in their first trip to the national tournament since 2012, the Black Bears are looking for more than just making the field. Their X Factor will be one guy that I haven't named yet, but has been a top 5 goalie in the country all season long, Albin Boya. Another incredible Maine success story is an undrafted recruit. The Wall from Sundsvall was named to the Hockey East second team after a 20-win sophomore year. When he's at his best, the list of guys you'd rather have between the pipes is slim to none. Boya is a goalie that can win you a national championship, and as Matt Davis showed last year, great goalie plus a deep, talented hockey team is the recipe for gold. Connecticut. If you told me that the UConn Huskies would be an at-large bid for the 2025 NCAA tournament back in the summer, I would have called you crazy and then some. And I'm sure many of the diehards in stores would have agreed with that assessment. But maybe some of that Dan Hurley magic made its way over to the ice bus. In all seriousness, shout out to Hockey's Coach of the Year Mike Cavanaugh and his staff for this incredible turnaround. The Huskies finished 8th last year in the conference and were quickly heading in the wrong direction after narrowly missing out on a conference tournament championship in 22 to UMass. This year, UConn is blossoming talent left and right. Joey Muldowney has been downright dominant, specifically in the second half of the season with 27 goals. Hudson Shander racked up 30 assists and was named Hockey East's best defensive forward. Plus, they've gotten reliable goaltending all season long from the duo of UNH transfer Tyler Muslik and all-rookie selection Callum Tung. For X Factor, I'll go with special teams. The Huskies' power play has been red hot since the start of the new year, climbing into the mid-20s percentage-wise after a bit of a slow start to the season. It was also rounded into form with just a single power play goal allowed since February 25th. Quinnipiac did give UConn a scare in their regular season matchup, but there are so few weak spots on this UConn squad that their first ever national tournament appearance might be a long one. Quinnipiac. Death, taxes, Rand Pecknold and the Bobcats in the NCAA tournament. At least that's how it's felt for the past 6 or 7 years. The 2023 champs return to the dance for the 7th straight tourney, and it almost feels like nobody's mentioned them this time around. Perhaps a down year for the ECAC coupled with Hockey East dominance has stolen some of QU's thunder, but if you look at their record, nothing has changed from the past few years. 16-5-1 in conference play, another 20-plus win season. They've been knocking on the door at an at-large all season long while being the favorites to win their way in via the ECAC tournament. That being said, Cornell got the better of them in the conference semifinals to extend the Bobcats' surprising ECAC title drought to 10 years. But what matters in this video is that they are still a threat in the NCAA tourney. Jeremy Wilmer has been a fantastic pickup for the Cats, coming over from BU with a career year, which is saying something, considering he had 30-plus points in 2 seasons with the Terriers. He's not the only transfer making waves, as Jack Ricketts, the Holy Cross transfer, leads the way in goals with 20, now playing for his old coach Bill Riga's former boss. 8 different Quinnipiac players have 10 or more goals on the year, so there's no shortage of scoring in Hamden. Goaltending has rarely been an issue over this period of success, and it doesn't seem to be one this time around as Slovakian sophomore Matej Marinov has been stellar down the stretch. Not a surprise for this X Factor, it's got to be the power play. All season long, the Bobcats have cashed in on the man advantage and boast the nation's best heading into the tournament. They even had a 5-for-6 performance against Union back in February. With their in-state rival UConn waiting in the first round, they'll need to make the most of what teams give them in order to make it back to the Frozen Four. Penn State. If you listened close enough on Friday night, you might have heard a collective sigh of relief across Happy Valley when the Nittany Lions were locked into the final at-large spot for their 4th trip to the Big Dance since joining Division I less than 15 years ago. Probably felt even better knowing the first team below the cut line was a rival in Michigan. As tight as it was towards the end, make no mistake about it, Penn State earned their way into the field with an insane second-half charge, winning 12 of their last 17 to rocket up the pairwise rankings. The Lions had just 1 loss in February while sweeping Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and taking 5 out of 6 points from Michigan State before capping the month with a thrilling OT win at Pagula over Minnesota. The man leading the charge, sophomore Predators draft pick Aiden Fink. Somehow this electric offensive force slipped all the way to the 7th round, and since being drafted has compiled 86 points in just 71 college games. Plenty of other success stories up front, of course, with freshmen Charlie Serrato and J.J. Weebush bursting on the scene, but Fink has as strong of a Hobie Baker case as you can make. Despite the strong finish to the year, there is one area of concern I have with PSU as they prepare to play in their backyard in Allentown against the Hockey East champs in Maine: the penalty kill. Penn State has allowed a power play goal in each of their last 6 games, and their kill percentage during that stretch has been at an alarming 56.3%. That won't get it done against the Black Bears' 21% man advantage. The X factor for the Nittany Lions will be whether they can get into a rhythm on the PK. On top of that, they're 18th in the most penalty minutes, so staying out of the box altogether is a priority. Take care of that, the sky's the limit for one of the most exciting teams in the country in 2025. Western Michigan. We wrap things up out west in the Fargo Regional. Don't look now, but you're watching an insanely good program blossom in front of your very eyes out in Kalamazoo. 4 years at the helm for Pat Ferschweiler, 4 trips to the NCAA tournament. You don't see that too often, especially at a program like WMU that is still searching for its first Frozen Four appearance. The Broncos already got to hoist 1 trophy after erasing a 3-0 third-period deficit to shock the Denver Pioneers 4-3 in double overtime in the NCHC championship game. The scoring dynamo that is Flyers' 5th-round pick Alex Bump headlines a top 3 scoring offense in the nation. Bump has followed up his 14-goal freshman season with 23 as a sophomore, including a 4-game scoring streak that ran throughout the NCHC tournament, including the game winner against Denver. 6 other forwards have reached double digits in goals this year, which include 15 from 5th-year Tim Washy, who had just a dozen in his previous 4 seasons. Talk about a leap. The back end is plenty experienced, but the star has been first-year Jonah Väisänen, who was named to the All-NCHC second team. It also helps that both Hampton Slakinski and Cameron Rowe made second and third teams, so Ferschweiler is no bad option in net, although the freshman Slakinski hasn't given up the starting job since late February. On paper, this Broncos team has all the makings of a national champion. What makes them the most dangerous and could be the X factor that leads them to the promised land? Their middle periods. Western Michigan has outscored teams 55-21 in the second this season. They're pretty darn good in the first too, but this team comes out of that first intermission with so much fire in their bellies. Whether they lead or trail after 1, it's that middle 20 that opposing teams have to bring their A game to. If they don't, the Broncos will stampede you, and they might just do so all the way to the title.
Minnesota!
Year 7 in the Motzko era certainly did not disappoint in the regular season for the Golden Gophers. Minnesota won 24 games, including 15 in Big Ten play, to slot in behind Michigan State for second in the final standings. That being said, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish threw a wet blanket over them with a shocking upset of the Gophers in the quarterfinals of the conference tournament that would in turn cost the latter a 1 seed in the Fargo Regional. Despite the rough end of the Big Ten tourney, there is still plenty of evidence that suggests Minnesota is primed for their 3rd trip to the Frozen Four in the last 4 years. First and foremost, Jimmy Snuggerud's still doing his thing. Named to the first team for the 2nd straight season, the Blues' first-rounder, who led the conference in scoring as a freshman, has lit the lamp 22 times as a junior. He's not the only third-year player who's balled out. Matthew Wood, another first-round selection who began his career back east in Storrs, seems to be enjoying his new home in Minneapolis with a career-high 38 points in as many games. The Gophers have also gotten 16-plus goals from 2 more juniors, Brody Lamb and Connor Kurth, both NHL prospects in their own rights. There's no question that the talent is there for Minnie. What will decide their fate in the NCAA tournament will be just how their struggling penalty kill can put together stops against some of the country's premier power play units, such as UMass, who they will face in the first round. The Gophers are just below 76% on the year for the PK, down from 79% the year before, and 83.5% from the team that fell to Quinnipiac seconds into overtime in the 2023 National Championship. They have conceded power play goals in each of their last 6. They'll need to be better to supplement their strong power play unit. The fans in the hockey state have been itching for that 6th natty for over 2 decades now. Is this the year Minnesota breaks that tie with the Boston schools? We'll know soon enough. Massachusetts. For the 5th time in 9 years under Greg Carvel, the Minutemen are NCAA tournament bound. That doesn't include 2020 either, when the postseason got canceled and UMass was a shoo-in for that year's dance. Early on, it was an up-and-down start to the year for the Maroon and White, who were in the 20s in pairwise right around New Year's. However, a 12-6-2 close to the season in a stacked Hockey East was more than enough to climb up the rankings and into an at-large bid. That stretch included road wins against BC, BU, and UConn, plus taking the majority of points from Maine at the Mullins Center. Biggest story out of Amherst this year has to be Cole O'Hara. The junior enters the national tourney with 51 points on the year, tied for the Division I Minutemen single-season record. Laughably, O'Hara was excluded from the Hobey Baker list of finalists despite being top 5 of the nation in points and top 10 in goals. I know, bias involved, but you can't tell me there were 10 better players in college hockey this year than O'Hara. Not to be outshined are his line mates in Jack Musa and Lucas Mercury, who have both produced abundantly. Idar Suniev remains one of the best shots in the country, and Michael Robel has shined down the stretch in goal. UMass beat everyone in their conference at least once this winter, so they've proven they can skate with anyone, no matter the number next to the opponent's name. While Carville himself has said that Robel will decide their season one way or the other, and he certainly has in regards to helping them reach the NCAA tournament, my X factor for Massachusetts will simply be health. Minutemen were without both dynamic freshman forward Daniel Yenchko and blue liner Lucas Olvestad for both playoff games in the Hockey East tournament. Olvestad, the former Denver Pioneer who won it all last season, is instrumental to that defensive core, leading UMass skaters in time on ice. Add those two back to one of the most disciplined teams in the country with one of the best power play units in the nation, now you're looking at a squad that can make some serious noise in the Fargo Regional and perhaps beyond. Minnesota State. Even with Mike Hastings leaving for Wisconsin a few seasons ago, the Mavericks from Mankato have not let up in their dominance of the CCHA. Second-year head coach and former Buckeyes assistant Luke Strand has led the Mavs to their third postseason title in 4 years to clinch a spot in the Big Dance for the third time in the school's Division I era. Much like former Hobey Baker Award winner Dryden McKay, junior netminder Alex Tracy has dominated in net for Minnesota State, posting the nation's best save percentage and goals against average heading into their trip to Fargo. The Chicago native finds himself as a nominee for both the Hobey and Richter Award. Offensively, the Mavericks have been led by a couple of veteran forwards in Rhett Pitlick and Josh Grohl. Pitlick, who began his career with the Gophers, is averaging a point per game, while Grohl has doubled his goal total from last year with 14, including the empty net dagger in the Mavs' CCHA championship win over St. Thomas. Tracy is included in this, but the X factor for Mankato will be their strong defensive play. The Mavericks allowed just 56 goals in 38 games this year. It hasn't been the strongest last few years for the CCHA, so certainly something to consider, but Minnesota State has proven time and time again that they can shut down top scorers in the NCAA tournament, and it almost won them the trophy back in 2022. All CCHA first-team selection Evan Murr leads a strong core in front of Tracy, and with the Western Michigan Broncos leading things off against Mankato, we'll get a good idea early on just how well these Mavs stack up against these Blue Bloods. Well, there you have it, the 16 teams that will be battling it out in the 2025 NCAA tournament. Once again, please be sure to subscribe and comment below who you think is going to take home the title this year. I'd also love to hear some feedback, plus maybe any ideas of videos you guys might want to see as the summer rolls around. Plenty of time, of course, during the off-season to get to a bunch of the great stories of college hockey. Anyways, so long for now. This is the first of many from Home Barn Heroes.